pastor met me when I was like 7, 8 years old. This was around the time where OF was getting really popular. Like, what type of content are you talking about? And then he says, I want to see you.
I remember when the neighborhood pastor was like the savior of the town. To the fatherless, he was a great example for what a man should be. For women, they finally felt like they could trust a man. Pastors were there to give the word and to baptize the sinners. But nowadays, it seems like more and more stories keep coming out about these pastors. And I'm gonna be honest, this story is a little bit different from any other story I ever heard. So before I play the story, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, y'all. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers. I know it doesn't mean anything to you, but it means a whole lot to me for you to just hit that button. And I also want to mention that anything you hear in this video is alleged, all right? I'm not saying any of this stuff is facts. This video is for entertainment purposes only. I can't justify any of this to be the truth.
My pastor tried to sleep with me. I do have to give you a backstory so you can understand the severity of this situation. Suddenly, one day, we just up and left the church. This pastor met me when I was like 7, 8 years old. So he's known me since I was a little girl. He baptized me. Him and my father were at one point sort of kind of like best friends. So I had to explain that part so you can see how sick. I don't know if this video is gonna get a lot of views. I don't know. But in the event that it does, I'm not sorry for saying any of this at all. I do apologize to his children because I know that this is probably the first time that you're hearing about this. I'm not going to say his name, obviously, or put any pictures or anything like that. Let's continue. Now that you have the backstory, again, this was like 4 or 5 years ago. At the time this happened, I was like 20 years old, and I'm 25 now. This was around the time where OF was getting really popular. It wasn't exactly popular yet for what it's known for, but it was around that time where it was getting there. When it comes to certain situations, I look at things for what they are and not what they are portrayed to be. Looking on there, of course, OF doesn't promote itself as that type of app. So when I made it, this was around the time I was heavily chasing my music career. If you know me, you know I used to rap and sing and all of that stuff, and I was heavily trying to pursue being a rapper and a singer. I was deep into my music career, like really trying to thrive and make a living off of it. When I saw OF, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a perfect outlet to put all of my behind the scenes content on here, exclusive music videos, photo shoots, never before seen photos or unedited photos from my photo shoots. I had this whole big plan to put all of that stuff that I didn't normally share with my supporters or my Instagram followers on there. That is what I was using OF for. I promise you, that was it, and that was all. So on my Facebook, only my family is on there. There may be a few of my friends or associates or people I went to high school with, but for the most part, it was only like family members. I posted the OF link on there, and I specifically put in the caption what was on there. So just thinking about that, even if I was doing that type of OF content, why on God's green earth would I post it on Facebook for my entire family to see? If I was doing that type of content, obviously I'm not gonna put it on Facebook. I get this Facebook message from my pastor. He's like, oh, like, wow, like you have an OF. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm posting all of my music videos. I had a music video that I had just shot that I didn't release yet. I was giving like my supporters and like my family and stuff a first look at that music video. None of my music videos were explicit or anything. Yes, I was definitely cursing and stuff, but none of my music videos had nothing crazy in it. So then I get a new subscriber. My family, they're really, really good about supporting my music. So this was not uncommon. I didn't find this weird. I was actually like, oh my gosh, I'm getting another subscriber. There was only like 5 things on there. The music video and like the behind the scenes of that music video. So he liked all of them. And then he inboxed me and he said, oh, I have a question. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he was like, is this the only content that you post on there? And I was like, well, that's all the content I have on there for now. I'm getting ready to post some other behind the scenes from this other photo shoot that I just did. So I don't know when I'm going to upload it, but I'm going to upload that on there soon. Then I'm also shooting another music video soon, and that's going to be up there as well. So I tell him that, and he was like, oh, okay, that's it, LOL. And I was like, yeah. Mind you, I did not know that OF was turning into a P app. Was completely oblivious to it, and not only that, it was still on the rise. Like, it wasn't predominantly that yet, and if it was, I had no clue, because I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm reading his message like, Yeah, that's it. Like, what do you mean? I'm thinking he's about to give suggestions about other type of music content that I can put on there or something like that. But he comes out and say like, oh, you ever thought about doing any other type of content for her? And I was like, any other type of content like what? At this point, I'm starting to say, surely he's not talking about that. Surely he's not talking about that. There's no way he's talking about that. So I'm just in denial right now because like I said, he is in the family. This man watched me grow up, and my siblings and him and my daddy at one point was like this. Also, like I said, we did up and stop going to this church out of nowhere, and we joined a different church. My parents, they never told us why. They never told us what happened. We kind of knew something happened, but they never told us why we stopped going. Remember that, because it's going to be important later. It was like, LOL, you know what content I'm talking about. Nobody wants to see the content that you have on there now. Like, who's going to subscribe to see that? So I'm like, I didn't know how to respond, but at the same time, I didn't want to run with a narrative where I think he's talking about something and maybe he's not. So I didn't accuse him of anything. I just left the message alone. I didn't respond to it. Then he double texted me like an hour later and he said, oh, I could pay you for the type of content that I want to see. Right there, I'm like, he's definitely talking about what I think he's talking about. I still wasn't running with it because I didn't have proof. He didn't come out and say that. And if anything got out, I knew that he could deny it. Because back then, the church folk that he had surrounding him were like die-hard churchgoers who would back him up to the ends of the earth. If I ever would have came out with this, I would have had to have severe, concrete audio and video proof of this. That's how deep they was going for him. I'm like, what type of content are you talking about? And then he says, I want to see you naked. Literally said, did you mean to send me this? And he was like, yeah, LOL. And I was like, do you know who this is? This is Blank's daughter. I said my father's name. He was like, yeah, I know who this is. I know who this is, LOL. Like, I just want to see some content of X, Y, and Z. He then started being descriptive with the type of content he wanted to see and even made an offer to see me in person. And so I was like, so you know that this is Blank's daughter? And he says, yeah. And I was like, this is Shawnee, like little Shawnee. And he was like, yeah, I know you is. You ain't no little girl no more, LOL. I immediately called my father. Immediately called my parents. And when I got them on the phone, both of my parents was livid, but they also had this side in their voice where they weren't surprised. I was like, why kind of sound like y'all not that surprised? Like, of course they was extremely mad, but they wasn't that like surprised. We're still talking on the phone and I go back to the messages because I'm like, oh nah, I need to show them proof. Of course, the messages are gone. All you see is everything he ever said unsent. I had no proof, but of course, my daddy and my parents, you know, they believed me. Of course, they're not those type of parents. They believed me. That's when I got the explanation on why we really left the church. Something else actually transpired after it came out. The story gets worse.
Real quick, before we continue, I just have to say that a man with no sexual control is a very weak man. That man let his sexual curiosities take over his actions and risked everything. Over what? Some pictures, some pixels on the phone? And then the crazy part about it is, it seems like on his OnlyFans account to message her, he used his actual name. You know how bold you gotta be to message somebody from your actual name, knowing that she knows that you're her dad's friend? Like, fellas, having sexual curiosity is one thing, but to not shake that off and then try to act on that dumbass thought is just diabolical behavior.
So I know some of y'all are very eager for me to get into part 2 of the story, but before I do that, I have to address a few things because I was reading y'all comments. First and foremost, my OnlyFans was definitely made only for my music and my behind the scenes content. If you don't believe that, I really don't know what to say, but I have no reason to lie about what my account was for. So diving into the rest of the story, when I called my parents, and I tried to go back and show them the messages and they were gone. Of course, they felt the way that the messages were gone, but they still believed me regardless. Like, I'm not one of those people that's just gonna lie. I believe in maintaining and upholding my integrity, especially in situations like this, and they know that I'm not gonna lie about something like that, especially given the knowledge that they already had. That's when my mother revealed to me that the reason we left the church was because God showed her and revealed to her that he was operating under the spirit of perversion. And from there, she knew that means she had to leave the church and take her kids with her. So right after God revealed that to her, that's why we left the church. He did tell me that a few people have came up to her and confided in her about him, and all of that stuff just led up to us leaving the church altogether. When we left the church, I was young. We weren't at the age to where we would understand stuff like that, or where she was going to break down stuff like that. Like, me and my siblings, we were young. So we just left the church and found a new church. She didn't even reveal to me the identity of the people that came up to her and, you know, exposed him to her and their situation. She did not tell me their identity or even give me details of their situation, but she told me enough to show that it was that bad. So I was like, oh my goodness, really? And they just started expanding on it. And I'm talking to one of my cousins about it, and she's telling me how her mom experienced stuff with him, with certain nasty comments that he made. After that situation happened, a few months, maybe 2 to 3 months passed, and someone in my mom's family was having a birthday party, and of course there was the possibility that he was going to be there. My parents did not know, but I told them I didn't want to go just in case he was gonna be there. I ended up going anyway because my siblings was going, my dad was going, my mom was going, so I'm like, okay, I might as well go. If he's there, I know I'll be safe and protected because my daddy with me. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. We pull up, and of course, he's there. He's there with his wife. My dad instantly got angry all over again. The way that my father wanted to react, he couldn't. If you are a father, you can understand how a father would want to react hearing something like that. This is a man that you was cool with, basically best friends with, and he made a pass on your daughter, and you found out about it, and he tried to like do some little creep stuff. Imagine how a father would react to that. When my daddy saw him, of course, he instantly got pissed off all over again. The way he wanted to react, he couldn't, because my father has other children to raise, and that would have meant he would have went to prison for doing something. And someone else there that's related to my mom saw him very, very, very emotional, very angry, and pulled him to the side like, what's up? Like, what's going on? Like, is everything okay? And my dad told him exactly what happened. So now he's upset because he also had his children around this man as well. Now they're like trying to figure out how to approach him at this birthday party. I said hey to a few family members, and then I just went and sat in the car. I was just so uncomfortable, especially when I saw my daddy and this other individual getting really upset, and both of them was like, nah, man, like, we need to go say something. The next thing I knew, we see him leaving, and that was that. There was no fight that broke out at the party. He ended up leaving before it could get to that point. I have been hearing that his wife knows, and that she is choosing to turn a blind eye, and she is in denial of what her husband is doing. I never told his wife. Me and her never really had a close relationship to where I could just like hit her up. I didn't even have her phone number. Like, I was only really close with her daughter, and I'm not gonna lie, think whatever you want, but I did not even feel comfortable telling her. How do you tell someone you're close with that their father is a creep and a sicko? Me and her kind of fell off. We didn't beef or anything like that, but we did like lose contact and weren't really talking like that. I can only imagine how it would feel hearing that your father is a predator and a sicko. So I don't know. I should have spoke up, but I'll be honest, I wasn't as brave back then to just face his daughter and his wife and say, yeah, your husband or your daddy tried to sleep with me. To make matters worse and add on to all of that, maybe like a year later, I ended up moving back in with my parents for a short period of time, and his son actually reached out to me. I think we were talking about my music or something. I can't remember why he reached out to me. He was like, oh yeah, we should meet up if you want, like, we could hang out. I didn't see anything wrong with it at first because me and my siblings were super close with him. But then he texted me really late one day and asked if I was up. I was like, yeah, what's up? And he says, oh, I wanted to show you something. Yes, it's going there. I'm like, show me what? He sends an eggplant emoji. I was like, we're cousins. And keep in mind, I did not tell him his dad tried to have sex with me and get naked pictures and stuff. I didn't even tell him that. So this runs in the family. This is a family affair. This is a family thing at this point. Now I started feeling like, okay, so maybe y'all all know and all of y'all sick. All of y'all some creeps. After that, I blocked him and I went ahead and told the daughter. Now the daughter in question, the pastor's daughter in question, she is the oldest. So I immediately told her after that. I screenshotted that and I showed the daughter. And I was like, yeah, this is what your brother is sending me. And she was like, oh, I'm so disgusted. I'm going to have a talk with him. And that was pretty much all that she said. She literally never got back with me. I did not tell her about her daddy. I know that would have been a perfect time to say something, but I didn't go as far as to tell her about her daddy because, again, in my head back then, I'm like, dang, I don't have the proof. I don't have the screenshots to show them. My parents believe me regardless, but anybody else, I just felt that they were not going to believe what I'm saying because I didn't have proof. I don't remember her apologizing for it. And of course, the son never apologized. The pastor, the dad, he definitely never apologized. He's actually still a pastor today.
She also posted pictures of who the pastor is and where the church is. I'm not going to put all of that in this video because all of this is alleged. I don't want to put nobody's face out there, and we don't even know what's true and what's not. You can go check it out on her TikTok. Here's her TikTok right here. Now, we can't say that this man is a predator or anything like that because she was of age. She was 20 years old, and she didn't mention anything about him making a pass on her while she was a young girl. But at the same time, this is still a pastor, a married man. Try to make a move on somebody that trusts him while they were growing up. And from the sounds of it, he was probably sitting in a dark room letting his man downstairs dictate his next move. Won't your man downstairs lie to you? Like, you ever been really sold on doing something with somebody and then you do it and then you come to your senses and you're like, man, I ain't had no business really doing that. That just tells you you weren't in your right mind. Ladies and gentlemen, beware and ask yourself, does your sexual energy lie to you? Can you trust that voice? Should you act on what that voice tells you? Because for one release, you can lose everything that you have. This man was probably trying to just get his rocks off and jeopardize his whole church, his marriage, his respect for the people in his community, all because he listened to that lying voice in his head. Men, learn how to control that sexual energy that you have. It'll get you a lot further in life, I'm telling you. But I also want to speak on pastors. Too many times people put pastors on this high pedestal as if they are God themselves. The way I perceive pastors is they're just a man up there with a suit on, reading out of a Bible, giving their opinion on the Bible. What I can't stand is when I see cult-like congregations in front of pastors. Have you ever seen a video of a pastor saying something crazy to the congregation and it goes viral, and then you listen to the video and you hear so many people like, yes, pastor, yes, Lord, Meanwhile, it's going viral because the pastor just said something outlandish.
We don't make it rain on strippers. We only reverence one stripper, and that's the one that took off glory to put on humanity and then get butt naked on a cross to die for both you and me. The only stripper I'm in love with is Jesus.
But the people in the congregation are so stuck in the cult-like community and believe in whatever this pastor says, they can't even discern when the pastor's saying something off. Do not idolize pastors. Pastors are up there giving their opinions on the Bible. Just because a pastor gives you a whole sermon on something they read out the Bible does not mean you now run with it and live your life based off of it. No, what you do is you hear what the pastor says and you go in the book and you verify and see if that's true to you. Because a lot of pastors will paraphrase just to get a message across. A lot of pastors also see the level of control that they have over their congregation and seeing that you're going to buy whatever I sell. So now you got these people feeling so powerful and larger than life, so they're over here making passes at people in the congregation. No pastor is God, so don't idolize them like one. And I'm going to tell you how I wish somebody would have told my younger self. Just because you hear stories like this, that does not mean you run away from the church. You go to church for an individual experience with you and God. You're not going to church for the people. What I always say about church is, if you're going to go to church, but still have your discernment on. Don't go to church thinking that everybody in there is great examples of what a good Christian is supposed to be. Go to church to get a message, verify that message, enjoy the godly worship that's going on within the house, but don't hear stories and be like, oh my God, this is why I stay out of church, because people in church are evil too. Listen, there's evil people all over the world. What I find is that when I go to church, my focus and my priorities are also on God, because what I do with my time says a lot about what is important to me. Now, what church I go to has to have a message that actually aligns with me. But once again, you always verify the message that you just received before you act on it. But anyways, y'all, it's been your boy Ty Boogie. Until next time, y'all, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all that good stuff, man. I'm out of here, man. Peace.